Concorde has touched down for the last time. For its fans, Concorde was a technological marvel, the ultimate in glamorous travel. To others, the plane was a noisy pollutant. Our correspondent Jeremy Bowen was on board.
The afterburners on Concorde's 4 Rolls-Royce Olympus engines pushed it down the runway at Kennedy Airport. The last act in this age of supersonic commercial flight was starting. Most of the Concorde flights since it started scheduled services in 1976 have been quiet, rather discreet affairs. Not this one. Some of Concorde's best customers were invited to fly one last time. Today's Queen of Concorde was Joan Collins.
I'm very sad for the future of civil aviation because, as far as I'm concerned, this was a huge step in technology and being able to travel supersonic speeds.
The ballet dancer Darcy Bussell loved Concorde's grace.
It's very weird to think that it's not going to be in the skies anymore. Yeah, it's such a beautiful, machine that glides so beautifully. I can't remember what row I'm in.
The cabin crew served a champagne breakfast as Concorde climbed to the edge of space, almost 60,000 feet. On board, there was no sensation of speed. 11 miles below, sonic booms cracked across the Atlantic as Concorde hit its cruising speed of 1,350 miles an hour.
Concorde is still a technological marvel. It's unique, it's beautiful, and most of all it's fast. At the moment we're travelling at Mach 2, twice the speed of sound. In the time it takes to pour a glass of champagne, we moved 10 miles.
Crowds were waiting to welcome it in and say goodbye. It hasn't always been popular, too loud, too noisy and too expensive, and its market never recovered from the crash in Paris in 2000. But going back to New York in a normal airliner will take around 8 hours. Our shrinking world just got a little bigger. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, on Concorde.
Completed its final journey to the Museum of Flight in East Lothian. The supersonic plane was transported along the A1 after travelling from London by sea on a barge. Our transport correspondent Louise Batchelor was among the crowds of people who watched Concorde arrive. What was it like, Concorde, Louise? Was it very impressive?
Well, it was very impressive, but also quite sad because this plane, who was once the first lady of the skies, has actually been stripped naked. She's missing her wings, her tail and her undercarriage. And instead of travelling at twice the speed of sound, she was actually carted across the open countryside. But having said that, things were very much worse for her last night. At midnight, Concorde was still crawling through torrential rain along the A1. Despite the conditions, many turned out to greet her, including the National Museum's transport curator, who stayed up all night.
It was a very long, wet night, but very satisfying, and it was just amazing to see the number of people that were out there standing by the road, sort of just waiting to see this aircraft come by. It's such an unusual sight.
By mid-morning, she was ready for the final stretch.
The matting that we've used is it's like a steel plank. We've laid 3,000 of these steel planks over nearly 2 kilometres, mostly by hand, to give a surface that the tractor unit that's pulling the Concorde can use to get safely into the museum.
But what a come down. The supersonic plane, more used to the red carpet treatment at international airports, was reduced to creeping cross-country through the spring crops. This was tractor terrain, adapted to the most unlikely vehicle ever seen threading its way uphill and down dale across the East Lothian countryside. At times it was a tight squeeze, but all went according to plan, and Concorde safely negotiated a small woodland to arrive on the Museum of Flight's tarmac.
Beautiful, isn't she? Even though she's not got all her clothes on. You know, I thought if she had all her clothes on, she would be 100% better.
I think it's very sad because it's not flying, and it's a wonderful plane.
Wonderful to have one in Scotland, though. Very good.
And they were just some of the voices in a crowd of around 1,000 people who turned out for this unique event. And Concorde is going to be on display here at the Museum of Flight at East Fortune for the rest of today. Tonight she's going to be put back into the hangar to have her clothes put back on. Then there'll be a brief chance to see her at an air show here on July the 10th. Then there'll be more work done on the craft, more work done on the exhibition that's to surround her, and she'll be back on display towards the end of the summer.
Louise Batchelor, thank you very much.